Hello friends, in this video lecture we are starting 2020 question paper. 2021-2022 question papers are finished. We have analyzed 2021 question paper and 2020 question 22 question paper with the use of logical method and analysis, and I have showcased how even in the paper like 2022 where people had said that there is no scope of elimination method, we have successfully demonstrated that how in approximately 44 to 45 questions some sort of logic, some sort of elimination was applicable to arrive at the correct answer. And if you are in exam environment, it is tough to apply in 45 questions because there is a pressure situation. But at least if you will learn, you will watch all these videos, and if you are applying, say for example, even in 50 questions, and if you will get 15 questions correct, so this will add around 30 marks in your kitty. So 30 marks is so much. If you would have got 80 marks, you will get 110 marks. You will be safe in any kind of paper. You will start preparing for mains examination just after prelims. So always understand, this is based on my own experience of clearing 4 prelims in all the 4 attempts. This is based on the experience of my friends who have cleared 5 prelims, my friends who have got 130 plus, 125 plus. Rishabh Rewar, one of my friend, he got more than 125 marks in prelims with the use of these techniques, methods. So I am urging you to watch all those videos and then come back to this video. Okay, let's start. Question number 1. Consider the following statements. Aadhaar metadata cannot be stored for more than 3 months. Okay. As I have earlier told you, whenever there is some data, be very cautious. Why you should be very cautious? Because data are easy to manipulate. State cannot enter into any contract with private corporation for sharing of Aadhaar data. There was a honorable Supreme Court judgment, and in that judgment there were several do's, there were several don'ts which was specified by Supreme Court in the case of Aadhaar, where Aadhaar can be used, where Aadhaar cannot be used. So the private sharing of data, because it breaches the right to privacy, article enshrined in Article 21, came from the Puttaswamy judgment. So this seems correct. Aadhaar is mandatory for obtaining insurance products. Insurance is not something which is detrimental for the well-being of people. Like without insurance, nobody can live. But the basic services which is provided by government to the humble section of society, that was allowed to seed with Aadhaar because it will help the government to identify the correct beneficiary, and ghost beneficiary could be ghosted out from that. They could be eliminated from that. And because of that, Aadhaar, the fourth statement, Aadhaar is mandatory for getting benefits funded out of the Consolidated Fund of India. The major things, major schemes, major policies, which is stemming from Consolidated Fund of India, that requires a strong legal and public duty from the part of the government. So it seems correct, but insurance does not seem correct. So if we apply that it is not something basic, and we eliminate this third statement, we will be left with either A option or the B option. And the state cannot enter into any contract with private corporation for sharing Aadhaar data seems correct. So we will arrive at option B, which is correct answer. These are the straightforward questions. This is a question which is also tricky, MP-LED's question. There was one thing which you needed to know, that MP-LED fund is not something which is lapsable. It is non-lapsable. It can be carried forward to the next year as well. So this was one fact which you needed to know, and based on that you could have eliminated 50% option. But here you needed to know this data. This was not some question which can be straight away arrived from the elimination method. This was a very easy question, so I don't need to discuss this. This was talking about the fundamental classification that we do: right to equality, Article 14 to 80, like this, and then right to freedom, and then freedom of religion. These all things, right against exploitation, Article 20 to 24. So all this classification which is there, you had to just identify it, where it comes. So these are some of the basic questions. Now the question number 5th. In India, separation of judiciary from the executive is enjoined by neither the preamble of the constitution nor the 7th schedule nor the conventional practices, but the Article 50 of the directive principle of state policy. Straightforward question. If you have knowledge of articles, it is very handy. A constitutional, question number 7. A constitutional government by definition is a government by legislature, popular government, multi-party government, limited government. When you have a constitution, it does not mean you have a government by legislature. It does not define anything like this. Constitutional government does not mean popular government. Constitutional government does not mean there is a multi-party government. But constitutional government means constitution will have certain policies, certain rules that has to be abided by the government. Constitution will place certain rights to its public, and thus it will be a kind of limited government. The power would not be like a king. It would be a rule of law, not rule of men. The same thing was repeated in 2021. That is why understanding these concepts are very much important. Question number 8. There is a straight logic here. Other than the fundamental rights, which of the following parts of the Constitution of India reflects the principles and provisions of Universal Declaration of Human Rights? See, Universal Declaration of Human Rights encompasses almost everything. Now, when it is saying that it includes fundamental rights, the preamble also reflects the values of fundamental rights. So, preamble तो सही हो ही गया. Now, directive principle of state policies also do talk about certain things, certain rights, certain provisions for like women, for the elderly person, for the specially able person, for the children's. So these are inherently part of the human rights. So DPSP bhi hoga. And then fundamental duties. In that also there is talk about the women, against women we have so many like prejudices, etc. Scientific temper, safeguarding the environment, respecting the idols, and like there are so many things which are there. So in that also there is something which has a human angle. So always remember the UN, with this UDHR, this UNDHR is something which is all encompassing. So kuch to milega, something will be there. So if this logic you will apply, you will get 1, 2, 3. It's a very big kind of over encompassing kind of declaration. So इसमें अगर आप you would have been logical and you would have arrived at the correct answer. Extra mind you don't have to apply. Be as fundamental as possible. Don't overthink. Otherwise your all 50-50 will become wrong. In India, straight logic, and it is applicable. Question number 9. In India, legal services authorities provide free legal services to which of the following types of citizens? Now they are giving the eligibility. Who would know this? Everybody who would have solved this, I had solved this correctly, and maybe some 5% students would have identified it correctly. 80% would have left it just seeing this type of question. But if you leave, how will you pass the prelims? Person with an annual income of less than rupees 1 lakh, okay, I don't know. Transgender with an annual income of less than rupees 2 lakh, I don't know. Statement number 3, member of other backward classes with an annual income of less than 3 lakh, okay. 4th number, all senior citizen. Now 3 lakh is something which is a huge amount. C are the per capita income of the nation. We will include 3 lakh. How many people will come? And that too from other backward class, which has a huge population. How legal services can be provided to such a large number of population? Transgender 2 lakh is like transgenders are socially excluded. Even if they earn, then also they are socially excluded. So that is why they are socially excluded even more than SC and STs. So उधर थोड़ा लॉजिकल लगता है, बट ये लॉजिकल लगता नहीं. All senior citizens having a pension of 60,000 per month also would be provide legal services, right? Such a blanket thing cannot be provided, or someone who is a businessman. So this also does not seem logical. Policy making जब होती है तो they take care of whom to target, whom not to target. So the answer was 1 and 2 only. And this is a fine logic. Policy बनती है, the policies are framed, so such kinds of thinking is always done. Now question number 10, I am not telling about elimination, but see, under 2 coalition, child rights. This under 2 coalition again came next year, so things get repeated. You have to understand this. Alma Ata Declaration of Healthcare of People, under 2 coalition again came, and they were attaching it with UN, but it was not something. It was some kind of subnational agreement. Subnational, when we talk about, then some cities also can come and join this agreement. Some 297 countries have come to achieve the target of that Paris 2 degrees Celsius say, and that there should be warming. It is not something which is related to child rights. So themes get repeated. Okay. This was a straightforward question. Now again question number 12. There was confusion among students with respect to this. Which part of the Constitution of India declares the ideal of welfare state? Okay, welfare state. DPSP, fundamental rights, preamble, 7th schedule. Now what is exactly welfare state? Welfare state is some kind of state which actively plays a role to provide the basic services to its citizens, to basic dignity to its citizens. That state is welfare state, which actively engages to reduce the inequality in the society. Now, if you will read the Directive Principle of State Policy, it talks about providing free legality, it talks about minimizing inequality, it talks about having living wages, it talks about having the rights to workers. So it talks about a hell lot of rights, which says that, which talks about the role of India as a welfare state. But when we talk about the preamble or fundamental rights, in preamble only the values are enshrined, like liberty, equality, fraternity, justice to socio-economic, political. But there's such a detailed explanation, the ideals of welfare state in a detailed manner is taught only in the Directive Principle of State Policy and not per se preamble. DPSP is something which is directly connoting the welfare state role of the Indian state. Here now, this answer was like very controversial, but remember what they are doing is, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberty and to preserve ideals on which the Constitution is based. So there is two kind of provision, one is implicit, one is explicit. So explicitly there is no mention of judicial review as a word or something, as a doctrine, but as Article 13, 226, 32 is talking about the role of Honorable Court to decide the constitutionality, and when there is the fundamental rights are in danger, and to actively participate and see the laws and rules and regulations if they are satisfying the basic structure, etc. or not. So it is something which is implicit. So what they did, they made this also wrong and they gave the answer D, which was somewhat controversial. Question number 14, tough question. One common agreement between Gandhism and Marxism is the final goal of a stateless society, class struggle, abolition of private property, economic determinism. Economic determinism, which is also called as dialectic materialism, where Marx had given a kind of evolutionary theory in which he had talked about the evolution from master and slave society, and slowly the feudal and the capitalistic and the socialistic and the communistic society. And he had talked about the factors of production. So means of production and factors of production. So nothing like this was given by Mahatma Gandhi. Class struggle, he was never in favor of any kind of struggle. He was someone who believed in ahimsa. Abolition of private property, he was not such kind of person who wanted to abolish the private property. He was believer in the Jajmani system, the division of labor or caste system. So he was somewhat traditional in nature, but yeah, he was of the view that if such a level of morality has been achieved in the country that there is no longer need of state to ensure rules, regulation, just society, then a final goal is to have a stateless society. Then there is no meaning of state in that. So that was the final goal of stateless society. Marx was also a believer of it. Gandhiji was also a believer of it. So even through elimination, you could have achieved this answer. In the context of India, which one of the following is the characteristic appropriate for bureaucracy? An agency for widening the scope of parliamentary democracy. Nothing. The bureaucracy has a role to deepen the parliamentary democracy. Parliament is the epitome of the we the people of India, and the power is with the people, and political parties are the tool. Bureaucracy just have the rule to either work based on the legislation which would be framed or the public services rules. B. An agency for strengthening the structure of federalism. No. C is an agency for facilitating political stability and economic growth. Political stability is not something. Economic growth stimulates but not the agency. Option D, an agency for the implementation of public policy. Yeah, this has to be the rule of bureaucracy. Like if some policy is framed, if some law is framed, the implementation comes to the jurisdiction of bureaucracy. So this is the most appropriate word and role for the bureaucracy. Question number 16. The preamble to the Constitution of India is a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect. Okay, not a part of the Constitution, has no legal effect either. This is rubbish. Option C, a part of the Constitution and has the same legal effect as any other part. Okay, a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independently of other parts. Now the two statements are telling that it is part of Constitution but has no legal effect. This also option A, option D. Now independently of other part, what does it mean? It has a deeper meaning. Say for example, if in preamble there is a word fraternity, and in fundamental duty also there is the mention of the values of fraternity, then in both the combination, with both the combination, some kind of legality can be observed. Or if some value is inside the preamble and it is also there in fundamental right, then both together can have a legality. Independently, the things written in the preamble has no legality. So the more appropriate and comprehensive meaning is D. Gold trench, reserve trench refers to, ऐसे तो you should know it, like it should be in your mind if you know the IMF and how things are there. So you should know reverse trench. If you don't know, then a loan system of the World Bank, one of the operations of a central bank, a credit system granted by WTO to its members, a credit system granted by IMF to its members. Credit system, दो बार आ गया. So either option C or D. Now you see this credit system, World Trade Organization has nothing to do with the this granting credit, etc. Okay, it has to regulate the trade which is happening. It has nothing to do with the credit system. The credit systems are looked after by the monetary fund. So the answer is D. Just apply this logic and you will get the correct answer. So this is a straight question on justiciable. Okay, now I am again teaching you a lesson which you have to remember. Consider the following statements. According to the Constitution of India, a person who is eligible to vote can be made a minister in a state for 6 months even if she is not a member of the legislature of that state. Now remember, they are referring to the Constitution of India, and such detailed explanation is not given in the Constitution of India, and that is why Representation People's Act 1951 was enacted, and then 52 also. So like twice RPA was enacted. In first much more detail was not given, then second more details were given. So this first statement is absolutely wrong. Now, second statement is according to RPA, a person convicted of a criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified from contesting an election even after his release from prison. This 5 years is nothing, yaar. Either in Lily Thomas 2 years or 7 years के बाद there is some crime which is heinous in nature. 5 years का तो कोई criteria होता ही नहीं है. So ये 5 year कहाँ से आया? Again I am telling you this data can be easily manipulated. So be cautious. I am not telling that it is always wrong, but be cautious. The answer is D. Again constitution में मिल जाए. The Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions of the Parliament in a year, but it is not mandatory to conduct all 3 sessions. In Constitution, there is no mention of monsoon session, winter session. Constitution is just telling that between the 2 sessions there should be a gap of 6 months, not more than that. Okay, that's it. Nothing more is written in the Constitution of India. Detailed में ना Constitution में there are very less provisions. Okay, so ये गलत हुआ तो आपको आंसर मिल जाएगा. Question number 21 again एक logic है. With reference to the history of India, consider the following pairs. Orang in charge of treasury of the state. Maniain, Indian agent of the East Indian Company. Third is Mirasidar, designated revenue payer to the state. ठीक है. अब बनियाइन, बनिया से बनिया मीन्स ट्रेडर. बनिया कास्ट इज ट्रेडिंग कास्ट. इंडियन एजेंट ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, समथिंग रिलेटेड टू ट्रेड, एजेंट्स ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. सो यह कॉरिलेशन बन रहा बनियाइन से. एंड दिस वर्क्स क्योंकि द वर्ड्स हैड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम सिमिलर रूट्स. तो गैस करने का द एप्रोप्रिएट मेथड इज टू गैस इट विद द हिंदी लैंग्वेज. ओके, sometimes with Sanskrit, sometimes with Hindi. Most of the time with the Hindi. Okay, so 2 is correct. When 2 is correct, then C gets eliminated. Mirasi dar, anything dar is some kind of authority they are providing. Okay. Now mirasi is the appropriate word. अगर आपने, if you would have read the Rohatwari system, then the Rayos were called as Mirasi because they were the one who had to pay the taxes directly. So from there this Mirasidar words came, and that is what is telling designated revenue payer to the state. I am telling you this knowledge. It will, who knows, this will be in the option. Orang is something which is some kind of warehouse, some kind of storehouse. The Persian language, it is something like this. Here also I will give you some knowledge. With reference to the religious history of India, consider the following statements. Sthavirwadins belong to Mahayana Buddhism. Lokattarwadin sect was an offshoot of Mahasangika sect of Buddhism. The deification of Buddha by Mahasangika fostered the Mahayana Buddhism. Deification matlab they made him God. They were open. So yeah, this seems correct, na? Mahayana Buddhism became Mahayana Buddhism when Buddha was seen something as God. So this seems logical. Now you will be entangled with which 2 options. Now I will tell you some gyan. Mahasangika sect was something which was originated in the second Buddhist council. What happened in the second Buddhist council, Vinaya Pitaka was when it was made, then there was a group who wanted to alter or wanted to give some kind of input, some kind of things they wanted to add. But this was not added, and then they became they started opposing this Mahasangika, and they came out. The group that came out was these Thavirwadins. So they were not related to Mahayana Buddhism. And this Mahasangika, from that Mahasangika itself, Lokottarwadins sect came. So it was pure knowledge. This is a very, very tough question. You needed to know Buddhism course. You need to know the core of Buddhism. Question number 23. Which of the following statements correctly explain the impact of industrial revolution in India during the first half of the 19th century? First half क्या होगा? First half is 1800 to 1850. Indian handicrafts were ruined. We know this, okay, but we will keep it on hold. Option B is machines were introduced in the Indian textile industry in large numbers. Large number, but they never introduced the machines in India. Otherwise, India would have been industrialized. Railway lines were laid in many parts of the country. 1853 says they started. How it can be the first half? So it is wrong. Heavy duties were imposed on the import of British manufacturers. अगर ये होता तो it would have flourished. Then wealth होता ही नहीं. So the option है. और के भी you will realize if you don't know exactly. Question number 24. Again there is a logic. I will give you logics which will help you. Rise of Pratiharas under King Bhoja. Rarely students know. Establishment of Pallava power under Mahendravarman. Establishment of Chola power by Parantakavan. Pala dynasty founded by Gopala. Now Pratihara and Pala, when they were formed, it's hard to know. The basic thing which everybody is expected to know is that Pallava came before Chola. Pallava came before Chola. So Chola should not come first. Option B, Chola is coming first, wrong. Option D, Chola is coming first, wrong. Now you have to see, choose between either A or C. Matlab you have to decide that either Pala dynasty was founded first or the Pratiharas were founded first. So Pala was founded first. It was somewhat around 750. And Pratiharas, King Bhoja, it was tempered around 850. Okay, 850 Common Era. And Chola was even after that. So that you have to decide and you will arrive at the correct answer. Question number 25. Which of the following phrases defines the nature of the hundi, generally referred to in the source of post-Harsa period? An advisory issued by the king to his subordinates, don't know. A diary to be maintained for daily accounts came, finance related thing. A bill of exchange, again finance related thing. An order from the feudal lord to his subordinate. True commonality, either it will be or it will be C. Okay, and you have to decide it. It is bill of exchange, hundi. Here you had to know, so Desher Katha, the use of Desh by the Oscar was in respect to context of region of Bengal. When they are talking about that, it warned against the colonial state hypnotic conquest of the mind, going so deep, and it is also talking and inspiring a movement as big as Swadeshi movement, street plays, and folk songs. Then how it can be so narrow to cannot Desh with Bengal and not the whole country. So this was the logic which you had to apply. This question was dropped because all four statements were correct and they had not given 1, 2, 3 and 4. Question number 28. The Vittal Vidvansak, the first monthly journal to have the untouchable people as its target audience, was published by Untouchable, Vittal Vidvansak. Here M.K. Gandhi came much later into this role when he was criticized heavily by the B.R. Ambedkar. So he came with Harijan, etc. But it was very late and nothing short as Vittal Vidvansak seems like something which is radical in nature, can be written by the Gandhiji. And B.R. Ambedkar, we know Muknaik, etc. The chronicles which are written by B.R. Ambedkar, and there was like Vittal Vidvansak was nowhere there, and Jyotiba Phule was associated with Gulamgiri. So the person who is left, and why if someone have to make option, then he will include Gopal Baba, Valagankar, where he will found, if you have to make options and he wanted to confuse us, then he would have written some another name like Babu Jagjeevan Ram, again associated with untouchable people, Thakkar Bappa. So something like that they would have written. Why somewhere this difficult name, big name, they are putting it? So kuch to aisa out there was a correlation. I had thought in same manner and I had put this and I got this correct. Some risk will be always there. There is no certainty. If you don't know the answer, how there can be 100% certainty? With reference to the history of India, the term Kunuya Vapa, Drona Vapa denote measurement of land, coins of different monetary value, classification of urban land, religious rituals. Land. So either A or C. B or D तो होगा नहीं, ठीक है? So the answer was the measurement of land. Who among the following rulers, question number 30, advised his subject through this inscription? Whosoever praises his religious sect or blames other sects out of excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect he rather injuries his own sect very severely. कितना too much philosophy. अब इसमें कौन सा ऐसा रूलर है who was so philosopher, he became so philosopher that even the philosophy of constitution was inspired by him. He became more like a thinker rather than a king. Samudragupta was not such a philosopher. He was more into the battles, conquering things, and that's why he was called as Napoleon of India. Harshavardhana was also not that much philosopher. He was battling in the Kannauj, was trying to rule. Krishnadevaraya was somewhat writer, but he was not that much philosopher. One ruler was so philosopher who talked about coexistence, who made some kind of doctrine which talked about respecting elders, respecting the ones who is serving you, true ceremonials, respecting others' faith, religion, because he had inherited a kingdom where his grandfather was someone who was believer in Jainism, his father was believer of Ajivika, and he was a believer of Buddhism. So there were so many sects, and then there was Sanatana. So to coexist that, he had to frame this. With reference to the cultural history of India, which one of the following is the correct description of the term paramitas? Paramitas, okay? The earliest Dharma Shastras texts written in apostolic sutra style, philosophical schools that did not accept the authority of Veda, perfections whose attainment led to the Bodhisattva path, powerful merchant guilds of early medieval South India. ये बीच में क्या word one out? Make it first or delete it. Now read this term again. Paramitas. 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 Param means something which is very high, something which is near to perfections. Perfections whose attainment led to the Bodhisattva path. Paramitas. You see the word. Param का क्या मतलब होता है? परम का मतलब ये होता है. इससे डायरेक्ट ऑप्शन किया गया, करेक्ट आंसर हो गया, खत्म है. क्वेश्चन नंबर 32 देखते हैं, and then we will close this session. In the context of Indian history, the Rakhim Bai case of 1884 revolved around women's right to gain education, ठीक है, age of consent, restitution of conjugal right. Now, age of consent, restitution of conjugal right is something which is of similar nature. Marriage, ठीक है. Right to education is something different. So correct होगा तो दोनों होगा, वरना अगर one only होता there could have been confusion. Based on this logic, you would easily arrive at option B, 2 and 3. So I hope if you will apply these logics, these elimination techniques, I am sure you will gain marks. So watch these videos, try yourself. You could find some other logics as well. This is not something which is definite. These are something which I have tried in the examination hall. I had made this. I have made this through analysis of several times, and I hope this will be helpful for you. Thank you so much. Take care, and God bless you all.